Now, I think I, like most people, love sequels. I don't really think there's anything better than going to see or hearing about a new reboot, prequel, or spin-off film for your favourite franchise. So you guys can probably imagine how excited I was to find out that Dune was getting a full reboot. And it's even by the guy who did Blade Runner 2049 and one of the guys who did Forrest Gump. Now, it's pretty hard for me to do this review without pointing out that I love Dune. I've got all the books, I've played the games, I've watched the original films, and I've even experienced Dune on the famous Orange and Black website. Audible. What else did you think I was going to say? So it's safe to say that I really like Dune, despite the sheer amount of trash in its franchise.
The guild does not take your orders.
Bruh, look at this dude.
Tell them to look into the future.
Now, going into Dune and knowing that they'd split the entire story into 3 to 4 sections didn't really lead me on to the point of thinking that it would be less loyal to the book than the original film was, but it is. And this really isn't an issue, especially in the first act, where the taking out of scenes only betters the pace and gives this really ominous tension that something big and bad is going to happen. But that's by no means to say that Dune was a perfect film. But I'm just going to go over what I did enjoy first. First of all, I really just want to say that Denis Villeneuve and Greg Fraser were the perfect duo to direct and design this film. If there's anything to carry this film, it's by far how it looks, and alongside the amazing sound is why you should definitely see this in cinema to really immerse yourself and get the full experience out of Dune. Another thing I really liked was the acting. I feel that every single actor in this film gave it their all with the material that they had. This is by far one of the best Jason Momoa performances I've seen in a long time, and Timothée Chalamet for once did not disappoint me. In the book, Paul is definitely not one of these flat-faced, no emotion characters. Paul is inquisitive, he's arrogant, he asks questions, he gets along with his teachers, and he has a lot of banter with them. And I think this is really well represented in the characterization of Duncan Idaho and his relationship with Paul. However, the characterization of most of his other teachers like Thufir Hawat was really underdone, and because he's such an influential figure in the previous books and film, I definitely think we lost something there. But ultimately, the first act and realistically the entire first film is just used to introduce the audience into the new world of Dune, so that in the next film we can just jump straight into the story and get on with the fun. As I've already said, the first act was definitely used to pretty much create all of the tension for midway through the second act, and I think that most of the exposition in this film is really well executed. It kind of annoyed me that I couldn't really experience all of these new elements fresh, which I give full props to the film for, because it definitely made me want to know about these new things for the first time. Now, before I get into what I really didn't enjoy about the film, I would just like to say that I'm completely against the philosophy of absolute fidelity, which essentially just means that the movie is exactly the same as the book, and this mainly comes from fear from writers of the fan base they're adapting their movie from. So that said, I really don't care if the main story of the book is changed in the film, if it services the film itself, because ultimately, guys, why would you ever want to experience the same plot twice? That's boring. Kubrick noticed this in A Clockwork Orange and completely changed the ending to Stephen King's original book. However, back to Dune, and as I've previously said that the first act changes quite a lot and rearranges the structure, the second and third are different gravy, guys. I definitely think that Paul's character changes at the second act. As I already said, he's going from a really inquisitive, arrogant but personable character to one which shows little emotion, which really isn't what Paul is like in the book or the previous film. And does it serve as the plot? No! Paul and Jessica get stranded in the desert for like 50 minutes of the film as a result of the massacre of House Atreides, and you'd expect that when two characters are left isolated together in a desolate wasteland, some or a lot of characterization to occur. And I don't really think this is just down to the writing of Paul. Lady Jessica really is underdone in this movie. She's obviously shown to be a Bene Gesserit sister, but other than that, and that she's Paul's mother and she can fight well, that's all that she's shown to be in this movie. Once again, I really don't care if the book is changed, if the movie is made better for it. But one or two things that really annoy me that was changed was, first of all, the Baron. Now in the book, the Baron is this really evil, maniacal and sinister individual, but in this he kind of just sits around, and the worst thing he does is he betrays Dr. Yue. What's more is that Paita is downgraded to a delivery boy or messenger, and in the book it was Paita's idea to keep Lady Jessica alive, but in this all he does is he goes out to get some Salakarian troops. Also, the Beast Raban, Dave Bautista's character, is really downgraded because in the book he actually had some intelligence, but in this all he does is he runs around and screams in people's faces, which is really disappointing because I really thought that Dave Bautista would be the perfect role, but I don't know, I feel like he's just wasted in this movie. And lots of characters are. Thufir Hawat, Gurney, Zendaya's character and Dr. Yue are all kind of pushed to the side, and this is obviously a consequence of the writers trying to make the movie more accessible, and that's why they brought in the really young Jon Spaihts, the writer for Prometheus, Passengers and Doctor Strange, and it's really noticeable which scenes he wrote, because for some reason Dune was thought to need quips, but ultimately the result of a script change from Shakespearean to more Marvel, and generally a faster paced story, has left the crew accomplishing what they set out for. And remember that Dune is only supposed to set the atmosphere, it's not supposed to be a high rolling sci-fi from the get-go. And honestly, if they carry on with what they did in the first act throughout the second movie, I think we've got a really good franchise, or rebooted franchise, on our hands. So with that all said and done, I'm going to give Dune 2021 a 6 out of 10, because its adaptation from the book, especially in the first act, is really well changed, but it kind of fizzles out in the second and third. Denis' ambition is definitely there, and it really seeps through compared to other modern adaptations like The Hobbit.